So hey family, welcome back to our Tai Chi Table Talk. This has been I'll go ahead and say weekly space, although we can probably miss a few gatherings here and there. But basically what we've been doing, we've been coming together and we've been exploring the art, or should I say arts, Tai Chi, Qigong, meditation, as well as some philosophy and some lived experience of intercultivation, and that lived experience being some of our own personal experiences, as well as my teacher, RIP to Sifu Ron Hoffman. He left behind some resources that we've been going through, and one of them is unpublished book, I should say, and also some of his notes that he's been taking in his personal journal for years upon years. And without getting too much into who Sifu Ron is and all of that, I'd like to go ahead and just welcome you back for today's episode. And for this one, I'm going to say I'm actually feeling super excited because I kind of like read ahead a little bit. And I like what he's talking about here. You know, I actually call this subject what I would consider inside of the Tai Chi world to be like the great divide, the great divide. So if I was to divide the art of Tai Chi into two hemispheres or two pieces, onto that yin yang back there, the way that most people like to look at it, they look at it as being a martial art, right? And then there's the other side that says it's a health practice. And then you have what I would call the middle line in between the two, which is the third, because I say it's two, a great divide, but there's also, to me, there's a unification of the left and the right. And this is where we're going to go today. We're going to go beyond the martial art, beyond the health practice, into something that's a little bit, I'm going to say far deeper than that. And Sifu simply calls Tai Chi a type of ancient human technology, right? He says that it's a system that was designed by our ancestors to help us to survive, not only survive, but to evolve and experience our true humanity. To experience our humanity at its highest capacity. And I think as a whole, I think most of us, man, we've been cheated in that regard, you know? We've been cheated in that regard, in this consciousness right now as things are. I feel like most people just aren't able to, for numerous different reasons, to truly tap into their true humanity. And this is just my personal feeling, you know, that society has actually robbed us of a lot of that. And there's a lot of reasons for that as well. So we're going to actually explore what we call the higher level temples, because Temple Tai Chi comes from a very old system, right? And it was found in the temple of the 18 Lohan in Taiwan. And there's different sects, you know, different divisions of practices, I would say. Even inside of yoga, you'll find different types of yoga. Even inside of Tai Chi, you'll find different family systems. So even in the temple systems, there's divisions. And they were done for various reasons. And you could access specific levels of information in specific temples. So what I mean by that is we have what they call lower level temples, not meaning good or bad. And then we have what we call higher level temples, right? And there's no jumping to the top. So everybody starts on the lower level temples. And the lower level temples deal more with the physicality, with the martial art. I would say a lower level martial art. that's dependent upon basically using more brute force as opposed to the more sophisticated internal types of martial arts. This is my quotation marks, right? So Temple of 18 Lohan is part of that higher level organizations representing in our salute. We have a left hand hollow fist, right? That hollow fist represents something. This circle represents something, right? We are the sun and the moon. That's our division. That's where we come from, the higher level temples. And this thumb, it represents, so I'm trying to line it up with the camera, it represents something, right? That thumb is right in the center of that circle, the sun and the moon, right in our bow, right? So we're going to talk about why Tai Chi looks mystical from the outside. And I want to go a little deeper on that. And I like to say that, Tai Chi is not mysticism to those who understand. Some people think that, that it's some type of what they call it, woo-woo or whatever, right? And I say that there's a lot of woo-woo out there, but there's also a lot of things out there that's simply unexplainable via common day science. So do we discount that and say it's not real, right? So I would say that to the untrained or the individual who does not overstand, we're going to talk about that word too, what overstanding means. That means that you've actually had some lived experience and you begin to embody what the art truly is capable of. If you haven't had that type of experience, I'll say this, the real eyes, not these eyes, but the real eyes is the real experience. If you haven't had that, oh yeah, it'll look like woo-woo. It'll come across as being mystical and magical. But in reality, it really is magic, but it's real magic. Tricks are for kids. And Tai Chi is not always so easy for kids. We must agree on that, right? So what Sifu means by overstanding, we'll talk about that. How Tai Chi becomes a vehicle for our full human development. How does that happen with Tai Chi? And how this ancient technology applies in modern life, because it is still ancient technology for those who have eyes to see. So I'll just say, go ahead, settle in. Join myself as well as Sister Pam here from Forever Tai Chi and my sister, Good Soil, here as well. So join the three of us as we go a little bit deeper and get into this thing and have an open discussion, just sharing our own personal experience and perspectives. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. We just all are who we are. So the idea of Tai Chi as technology. Let's begin with this, family, and coming straight out of Sifu's notes. He says, when we hear the word technology today, we think of phones, right? Everybody got their new iPhone, whatever number they're on now. Even the kids at the aftercare, they know about the iPhone numbers. I'm like, wow. Computers, machines of all sorts, and the big AI, right? The big AI, all considered today's technology. And we think this technology is so advanced, but this technology is the highest technology that we know of. He says, but the ancient world had its own technologies, and they were not mechanical. They were human. Remember the pyramids and all that stuff? Those things were there to tap into this human technology. He says, these were technologies of consciousness, energy. We talk about chi, perception. This is a big buzzword these days. Emotional regulation. That's a big one, man. So many things go back to that. Another one, spiritual alignment. Spiritual alignment. I feel like what we're experiencing now very abundantly in our common day time is a great misalignment in regards to spiritual alignment. Society as a whole is just way, way, way out of alignment. And we're seeing results of it. So Tai Chi belongs to a category simply misunderstood by most. And that's done that's done as a result of, I would say, the over commercialization of it. So they started to commercialize the art because remember, in the beginning, these arts were basically pretty secretive and you were pretty selective in regards to who you taught. Nowadays, people are just teaching to teach, not being quite as selective. A lot of teachers are teaching to collect tuition to keep their doors open. I think the art is suffering because of those types of things. But then Tai Chi goes through many changes like everything else, and it will continue to evolve through those few who continue to do things correctly over the generations. So this system, family, as we spoke of earlier, it can actually transform the practitioner into having a higher level of awareness, which is going to give them a more true experience in regards to activating his true humanity. So think about that. These slow movements, they're not random, first of all, nor is the breathing. The spirals, the rooting, the softness, none of this is random. It's all part of the technology. This technology trains our nervous system. Think about how I would say a large majority of people are living on the edge. On the edge. Stressed out for various reasons. That's fight or flight. That's the survival mentality. I'll say that's the root of most of our sicknesses. Tai Chi takes us out of that fight or flight and puts us into the rest and reset, rest and digest. I call it a reboot. The parasympathetic nervous system is activated, and we can move away from being so reactive, overly reactive, and start to respond appropriately. Simply because we have trained our nervous system, our mind, our body, and our spirits to operate in harmony. Nervous system, mind, body, and spirit, when they're separated and scattered, we're fragmented. Seafood would oftentimes say, everybody's very busy doing nothing. Everybody's busy doing nothing. He wasn't belittling that people are busy. What he was actually getting at was the fact that people are busy doing things that don't unify us to become that whole human being. He says, to someone who hasn't practiced, Tai Chi may look very mystical. But to someone who has overstanding, and remember, overstanding is having personal experience, not just gaining logical information or logical knowledge, but actually putting in the work. So Tai Chi is also known as being a type of Kung Fu. So Gong Fu or Kung Fu simply means that there's a specific amount of work done over a specific amount of time. So time in practice. The more time in practice, the more specifically the right practice, we get the right outcome. We can't get it by just thinking about it or reading about it or just looking about it. We got to put our hands in the dirt. We got to get dirty. So it's simply the technology doing what it is designed to do. So why does this technology or this Tai Chi appear to be so mystical? I think that one reason people interpret it as being so mystical is because we're used to seeing things that are dependent upon using brute force and not so much of the non-obvious things like angles, softness, or light touch, or instead of being, not being. Not being there. If you're not there, you can't get touched. So one of the first things that Sifu taught us was to not be there. He would always say, if you can't be touched, you can't be hurt. So we work on footwork a lot. So not being there, trying to be big like a mountain, but to be a peon, barely seen, a ghost, if you would, like water, to flow. If we're not used to seeing the flow and the circle, it may look mystical to us. You know, if you look around our environments, I would say our more non-natural environment, even your dwelling right now, the room that you're sitting in, I can almost guarantee you that that room is in some type of cubed shape with corners and squares and straight lines. If you find a circle, please raise your hand. Look at your windows, squares. Look at your window panes, squares. Look at your doorways, squares. You may got fancy with an arch. Look at the picture frame. Look at the TV. Look at your cell phone. Everything is written or drawn in squares. It puts us in a box. So we start seeing things very linear. And I shared that just to give you the idea or the understanding that, I should say understanding, that we are products of our environment, right? So the moment that we see anything different, it's going to look mystical. When you see these weird circular shapes that this guy's doing in slow motion, you're going to think it's mystical, it's magic, it's woo-woo, because it's not fast and straight. It's not what we're used to. So, why or how is this Tai Chi balanced in this circular fashion? We're going to talk about it. How did this little, I'll say old lady, use such a small amount of force and was able to deflect, they say 1,000 pounds. They say 4 ounces to deflect 1,000 pounds. That may appear to be mystical when it actually is not. You see, Tai Chi is about being in the right place at the right time. Right on time. It's like being in that flow state. If you've ever been in the flow state, you know how magical that feels. It's like everything is moving slow. There is no time because, first of all, family, time is not real. Let's understand that. Understand that. Time is not real. It's constructed by man. The only thing that's real is right now. So, how does this Tai Chi thing move like water? Why does it move like water? How does the practitioner appear to stay so calm in the middle of chaos? Tai Chi should be at some point what they call a moving meditation. That's what gives it the flow. So to the untrained eye, absolutely it does look like magic. But Sifu goes on to say, Tai Chi is only mystical to those who have no overstanding. Let's break this thing down. I mentioned understanding. Now here I am talking about overstanding. And most of us are familiar with the term understanding, right? Let's look at those three. Let's start with understanding. So if I say that I understand something, Look at the word under and stand. We know understand, or we know under is not above, right? So under is below. Standing means to take, what do I say? To take a stand, take a position, instead of using the same word, to take a position, right? So if you have understanding, your position is under whatever that is. So you've basically given up your authority, right? So when someone says something to you and you say, I understand, you're basically giving up your authority. Saying that whatever they say basically is what it is. So we have to be careful when we use our words. If you're into what I'm into, I would say start watching your words more carefully. Because, words actually shape a whole lot of things, They say that sticks and stones may break our bones, but words, whatever, will never harm me. Well, I'm here to tell you that that's the biggest lie. That's the biggest lie that was ever told. Because our words, they do harm us. They do harm us. Our words create a world that most of us aren't even aware of. Let's just say that. If you keep telling yourself that you're sick, right? Or you don't feel good, all of that negative frequency, negative thoughts, your cellular system, your actual cells, they're picking that up. This is not woo-woo. This is science that's been proven. And you can do your research. Because water, it responds to words. I ain't making this up. I can't make this up because it's already been proven by science. It will behoove you to look this up. That way you'll start, and I'm talking to myself as well because I'm practicing. I'm practicing on being more selective in my words of choice, right? We have to talk, if we're on this path of, I call it rejuvenation, we have to speak empowering words to ourselves. Especially whenever we use that word I. That's like sealing the deal. I'm not even going to say it. But if you were to say I am S-I-C-K, stop saying that. You're pre-programming your cellular system to be that. You're putting it in place to be that. Flip that thing around, man. Flip that thing around. I don't want to get off track on words. We should talk about words later. I'll just say empower yourself with more powerful words. So, Tai Chi is only mystical to those who have no overstanding. The overstanding would be once you've gone through understanding. Understanding is putting in the work. I'll just say blood, sweat, and tears. Not necessarily so. But the gung fu, the time in, right? You're going to start getting more and more understanding, meaning that it starts to belong to you now. Oh, I know what a ward off is. Oh, yeah, that rollback's right there. You're starting to feel it now. You're just transitioning, no problem. 10 years or more, right? It belongs to you. How many 10,000 repetitions, they say? Whatever it may be, you begin to move in to a point where you've embodied the knowledge. Now it's your wisdom. It's your wisdom now. Because first of all, you can't have anybody else's wisdom. It's their wisdom. You can only use their knowledge. Right? Wisdom is self-earned. True wisdom. True wisdom will be overstanding. Right? The knowing. Know thyself. This is what Tai Chi does. Sifu goes on to say, Tai Chi is only mystical to those who do not have overstanding. And I'd have to agree that he's absolutely right. Because family, as I mentioned before, once you've trained, you put in that gong fu, your structure. When I talk structure, I'm talking not only our skeletal structure, but the structure of our mental capacity. Are we locked in? Or are we having scattered thoughts? If scattered thoughts are there, there's no structure here. We got to center ourselves. Alignment. Breath. Am I breathing long, slow, and deep, relaxed, unforced, unstrained? Inaudible? Inaudible breathing will get you dialed in to where you need to be. That raspy breathing, that breathing through the mouth, you just put yourself back into fight or flight. That's emergency breathing. There's a dinosaur chasing my ass breathing. I got to get some oxygen. That's survival. We want to get out of that. Because that builds up all of those stress hormones. And then when we have an overaccumulation of stress hormones, now we have issues in our tissues, right? The organs are saturated with too much adrenaline. You see what I'm saying? Those are emergency devices that are put there for us. Not to live and dwell there. It's okay to get upset, experience the emotion. Don't become the emotion. The softness, the intent, the sensitivity, the rooting, the awareness. Isn't this magical? I would say so. Family, you realize there's nothing actually magical happening. We're just tapping into who we truly are. We're going backwards in time. We're reverting back to where we should be so that we can move forward the way that we should move forward, which is in abundance. Not survival. Abundance. That's our true humanity. We weren't put here to struggle, family. Not according to my thoughts. Oh, we're here to learn some lessons. We're going to get hit upside the head a couple times, whether we realize it or not. But did you learn from it? Did you learn from it? So, mystical from the outside. Check this out. Mystical from the outside, the onlooker, but very, very, very methodical from the inside. Because there's always a method to the madness. Methodical from the inside. That's the beauty of it, family. That's the beauty of the internal arts. If you have overstanding, you know exactly where I'm coming from. If you don't have overstanding, you must have trust. Not being delusional by any means, but trust off of those little moment by moment experiences that you've most certainly had. If it's just feeling your heartbeat, that's magical. That's the beauty of the internal arts. Oh, by the way, you can read that, can't you? Much cheaper than a therapist. We become our own doctors without the degree. Because we're not there. There's no place for sickness to land. You got to speak to yourself in a positive means. Because you're programming your organ system to do as you tell it to do or be. You speak sickness, you get sickness. Let's step back. Let's step back from the higher temple to the lower temples. Now remember earlier I mentioned higher and lower temples. The lower temple being more physical, more 3D, more body, not so spiritual. This is where every single practitioner begins. No exclusions. And sometimes people want to try to jump up when they have no foundation. First of all, that can be very dangerous. Second of all, hopefully you have a teacher that is experienced enough not to send you on a journey into the higher level temples without helping you develop lower level temple foundation. Sadly enough, some teachers will send you along the way unprepared. So I say that to say this. Sifu would often say, don't go reaching and grasping for things. Don't move too hastily. Take your time. There's no rush. Advancement will come when advancement comes. Breakthrough happens when breakthrough happens. Tai Chi is always on time. Trust yourself. Back into the lower temples is where everyone begins. These are known as the physical gates. Physical gates, family. So when you think physical gate, I said our human anatomy, our flesh bag. Our flesh bag. That also comes along with the breath, because if there's no breath, there is no life. So we learn proper breathing in the lower temples. We learn to stretch our body, to put our foot here, to step this way, to move that way, lower level. Open the joints, relax the muscles, lengthen the tendons, tap into our proper Tai Chi stances. Most people don't practice enough stances. Lower level temple training. Martial applications. This is where you learn how to stand, how to root, how to relax without collapsing, how to move without being so tense, how to breathe without forcing the breath, how to generate power without strain. I'll repeat that one. How to generate power without strain. Internal power development. These things are all foundational. And here's the thing. Most people, and I say this, should I say most? Yeah. Most people, family, they underestimate the lower temple because they think it's so basic. They want to graduate. I see it all the time. Sifu says people graduate way too early. And I must agree. Learn a long form and you think you know Tai Chi. Nope. You don't even know the long form yet. Years of practice, years of development, years of fine tuning. And that's where the fun is. Don't take my form from me. Please don't take my form away.
Download this app and you'll learn Tai Chi in a month.
I mean, come on. Come on.
I get such a stomachache when I see that.
I'm glad I don't see that stuff coming across my news feed. Somebody was telling me they were teaching people how to Tai Chi walk and lose weight.
Yes, it's called Tai Chi walking. I was like, no.
What a disaster.
And the people are doing these postures and I just cringe.
So far from Tai Chi.
The craziest thing is they actually believe they're going to look different in 10 days.
Oh, my God.
If you do this for 10 days, I'm like, really?
Yep. You'll lose 25 pounds or slim down or, oh, boy.
And who are they marketing this stuff to?
Anybody who will listen to it and who think it's going to work and some people just tell me, "Oh, I do it because it's free. It's free," and I'm like, but. And a lot of times it's AI teaching them.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It's AI. It's all AI. Look at those images. They're all AI. I couldn't believe it. I said,
And you know the thing about AI, I have nothing against it because I don't know enough about it. And at some point, I think that if humanity use the AI properly, we can use it to work to our advantage. Right now, it's just so new and it's changing so fast. We only see it as being a disadvantage. But one thing about AI, it can never be a human. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, even with AI, even as it progresses, you still don't get the human aspect.
No.
You don't get the, like you said, overstanding. You don't get that.
There's no empathy. There's no emotion involved. It's just it just grabs a bunch of answers and bring it all together and then it present it to you. And it's a lot of good intellectual information. But remember, we got to move on beyond the intellect to get into Tai Chi. You know what I'm saying? And that AI, I most certainly know that AI hasn't experienced anything. So there is no embodiment. You know what I'm saying?
And there is no
companies
Say again?
Companies are using real people, looking like real people.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to get better.
Ooh.
It's going to get
really
better.
Look to see. I can tell now.
Man, they said they can make actual like little movie clips like that, and they look so real.
But if you watch it, you can see. You're like, oh, that's AI.
Yeah.
But some people don't do that, and they'll be passing you along this information
as if it's real.
Say, well, thank you, but that's AI. I'm not. So I don't like watching it for that type of stuff.
No, I don't either.
I want to know the human experience.
I want to know the human experience. That's why, man, to be honest with you, I don't really watch other people's stuff at all. If I get a new friend request on Facebook or something like that, I'll go and look at them and I'll follow them a little bit. Then I even stop following too because it's just way too much. And I don't want to be influenced by other people. I'm looking for authenticity, and I feel like I have enough to go that route until I find, if I ever find, a teacher that can take me other places. But just random people sharing this, that, and the other, it's just way too much. So, in this lower temple, this is where we actually, earlier I talked about the body being a vehicle or a vessel, and it's physical. So this is where we build, they call it build the Tai Chi body. The engine, the vessel, right? And think about this. If the vessel is weak, it's going to collapse. Or there's a higher possibility or higher chance of that vessel collapsing if it's weak. You get what I'm saying? So, weaker vessel will collapse, and it won't take your Tai Chi very far. And honestly, as I mentioned earlier, there's also a possibility of injuring ourselves because we haven't built ourselves up properly. You can think about this analogy in regards to anything. If a vessel is weak, how it'll collapse. A house, if the house not built properly. You start with the foundation, right? And that foundation is just not at the top of the ground. It goes below the ground, like the roots, right? The roots. I like to think of houses in comparison to how the body works. The house have an electrical system. We have an electrical system. The house has a water system. We have a water system, and those parallels you can see across in various things. You can look at gardening, how you plant a seed and the roots go down and the flower come up. You gotta have strong roots and a foundation no matter what. A seed that does not go through the gong fu, the growing up, the growing pains, coming through the dirt, coming out to the sunshine, is not gonna bear any fruit. Same thing with us. Pretty simple. So in the traditional language, We talk about the life force energy being built up. That's living in our true humanity, building up our life force energy, our real, original, I meant to say, original energy, because it dissipates over time due to societal norms, as well as abuse, or maybe you're born with a disability or whatever. But it's been shown in Tai Chi and in similar practice how we can rejuvenate and rebuild our bodies. But this information is just not known by many, and people come in thinking woo-woo, and that AI ain't helping us because it's lying. It's selling these wolf tickets to people. And then when people see it's not real, they're going to start saying Tai Chi is not real. Right? So family, you can spend years here inside this lower temple, literally, and there's no rush. And when I say years, I'm talking decades. It's no rush. Enjoy it. Be there. Because the whole practice is always about being present. Being present is where we truly are powerful. If we're scattered, we can't be rightly guided. You're not going to pick up on that intuition because your mind is all over the place. So we got to come back into center. We got to come back home. This is home. This vehicle is home. Make this vehicle strong. Invest decades in your practice. Some people, family, they never leave that first level, that lower level temple. And that's perfectly okay. It serves them well. There's nothing wrong with that. Because the lower level alone can actually transform your health. It can change your posture. It can lower your stress levels. It can increase your physical confidence. All of that's good. We want all of that, right? To live in our fullest human capacity. Now, but for those who continue, there's another gate. There's another gate. And you open that gate to the higher level temples. And here's where Tai Chi becomes something more than movement, family. We're going to get into this a little bit and then we're going to conclude. But more than movement, I'll say a lot more stillness than movement. So this is the realm of intent, right? That's a big buzzword. How do you practice intent? How to? Awareness. If we are aware of the threat or the possibility of a threat, remember I said, just don't be there, right? If I'm not there, I'm good. If I know how to get away, I'm good. Emotional clarity, right? If I feel that my emotions are going the wrong way because I practiced enough and had enough experience, I can feel that now. I can feel my emotions starting to go the wrong way. And I'm starting to become emotional as opposed to just experiencing my emotion or getting stuck in that emotion. This is a higher level of awareness. This is emotional clarity. This is what we need right now. This is why Sifu says Tai Chi is right on time. So what about energetic perception? I'm a people reader. Tai Chi made me become a people reader, right? I'm picking up on vibes. Vibes are real. You ever walk into a space and something just don't feel right? A lot of people walk into a space and something just don't feel right, but they don't recognize it because they're not in tune with themselves. So if you want to start feeling more the environment, I say do your best to go into a quiet space. If you can go out into a park, feel that. Feel the nothingness. Learn to sit with yourself. Because if we can't sit with ourselves, we certainly won't be able to function well outside of ourselves. And most people are reaching and grasping outside of themselves, looking for solutions to the problem of not wanting to be with themselves. Always got to do something else. I don't want to be with myself. I'm going to pick up the phone and have a useless conversation because I don't want to be with myself. I don't want to be with myself, so I'm going to do a useless video game just so that I don't have to be with myself. Not even realizing that the way out is to go in. And then you'll look forward to investing some time with yourself because your internal environment ain't so stinky anymore. It smells good in there now, boy. You want to be in there now. You can look at those thoughts. You can break those thoughts down. You can make sense of those thoughts, and you don't run away from those thoughts. And you become more whole. You become more present in all situations, in all relationships. Present. We're talking higher level, spiritual alignment, inner protection, presence, stillness and motion. That's a big one. This is where you begin to understand how your thoughts shape your movements, how your emotions shape your energy, how your awareness shape your interactions, how your presence shape your environment, because it does do that. You know that. I experiment with that. Pay attention to how your presence shape the environment that you go into. This is where Tai Chi becomes a tool for navigating, remember, the unseen. We ain't talking about the 3D no more. The unseen. Not supernatural, not woo-woo, but very, very subtle. The subtle feel, family. We should wrap it up right there. The subtle feel. Let's wrap it up right there, and we'll pick up from there on next Sunday. I actually muted your mic because we're getting some feedback. So if you need to chime in on anything, unmute your mic. And let me actually mark this so that I'll know where we're picked up at. Anyway, family, thank you all for checking in with us today. As I said earlier, there's just so much here that we could just unpack. Just in this last 2 or 3 minutes, the inner protection, the spiritual alignment, stillness and motion. We could go on, the emotional clarity. We could open up talks just on those alone, but we're not going to do that today, family. So thank you all for being here.
I just had one comment when you were talking about the circular movement of Tai Chi and how mystical it felt to people. You notice how people gravitated to like karate and taekwondo. They're very straight and very forceful. There's no roundness there. That's why you have so many people going in that direction. Mm-hmm. At least that's my observation.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. And the analogy that I made about nature, things in nature being more round and how man-made, like the window sills, everything is square. So in our mind, we get more familiar with those shapes and that type of geometry. So we gravitate towards that in all things, the force and the linear, all of that, as opposed to the more yin and the more circular, more spiral. That becomes more, it becomes less attractive, let's say. Isn't that something? And, just to piggyback all that, funny enough, the first thing that drew me to Tai Chi was the elegant movement when I first saw it, because I didn't know what it was. I was just at a Buddhist temple on Chinese New Year, and I saw 2 gentlemen performing a long form or whatever form, I don't remember. And it was just something about the movement. And I wasn't looking for anything, but I left with Tai Chi that day. That's for sure. I had my invitation to class that day. So I guess it just depends on the individual, what we're attracted to. Anyway, family, thank you all for coming out. And thank you all for tuning in and dialing in and contributing to another nice conversation. I enjoyed that one.
Thank you.
It was very good.
Thank you. Right back at you.